ever practiced English for months, maybe even years, and then suddenly forgotten everything when someone asks a simple question like, "Can you tell me about yourself?"
Oh, that's painful, because I think almost every IELTS student has experienced that.
Exactly. You know the words, you know the grammar, you've studied hard. But when it's time to speak, your mind goes completely blank.
And the worst part is that after the test or conversation ends, all the answers magically come back.
That's so true. You walk out of the room and suddenly think, wait, I knew that answer.
I think many students believe they're the only ones who experience this.
They're definitely not alone. In fact, today's topic is one of the most common challenges IELTS candidates face.
And it's something that can affect both beginners and advanced learners.
Absolutely. So today we're talking about how to introduce yourself confidently in IELTS speaking.
That's a great topic because the introduction seems easy, but many students struggle with it.
They do. And sometimes students think, it's only my name and a few details about me. Why is it difficult?
Exactly. It sounds simple.
They do. And sometimes students think, it's only my name and a few details about me. Why is it difficult?
Exactly. It sounds simple.
But confidence changes everything. If you start the speaking test feeling nervous, your answers become shorter, your voice becomes quieter, you start overthinking every sentence.
Then one small mistake feels like a disaster.
Right. And before we go deeper into today's discussion, welcome back to English Chat Studio.
We're really happy you're here.
Whether you're preparing for IELTS next month or just starting your journey, this podcast is designed to help you improve your English naturally and prepare with confidence.
And if you enjoy learning through friendly conversations instead of boring lectures, you're in exactly the right place.
Also, if our episodes help you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to English Chat Studio, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode.
And we'd love to know where you're watching from. Leave a comment below and say hello.
Now, let's talk about something interesting. Why do students become nervous during the introduction?
That's a good question, because technically they know the information. Nobody knows them better than they know themselves.
Exactly. The examiner isn't asking difficult questions at the beginning. They're usually asking simple things like your name, your hometown, your studies, your work, or your hobbies.
Things you talk about every day.
Yet many students answer like this. My name is Ahmed. I live in Lahore. Student.
And suddenly their confidence disappears.
Students answer like this. My name is Ahmed. I live in Lahore. Student.
And suddenly their confidence disappears.
The problem isn't usually English knowledge.
Then what's the real problem?
Pressure.
That makes sense.
Students think every sentence must be perfect. They believe the examiner is looking for mistakes. They worry about grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, and band score all at the same time.
That's a lot to think about in just a few seconds.
Exactly. Imagine trying to drive a car while reading 5 different instruction manuals.
I wouldn't get very far.
Neither would most IELTS students.
I remember one student who practiced speaking alone every day. She sounded confident at home, but during a mock speaking test, she became so nervous that she forgot basic words.
That happens more often than people think.
So confidence is actually part of performance.
Very much so. And another misunderstanding is that students think they need to sound like native speakers.
That's a huge myth.
It really is. IELTS does not require a British accent, an American accent, or any special accent. The examiner wants clear communication.
That's encouraging.
It should be, because confidence doesn't come from having perfect English. Confidence comes from trusting the English you already have. I think many learners need to hear that. And today, We're going to show exactly how to build that confidence during your introduction, what mistakes students make, and how successful candidates create a strong first impression from the very beginning.
Because that first minute can completely change how you feel during the rest of the speaking test.
Exactly. And in the next part, we'll uncover the biggest mistakes students make when introducing themselves. Mistakes that quietly damage confidence before the test has even properly started. So now that we understand why introductions feel harder than they should, let's talk about the mistakes that cause so many students to lose confidence before the speaking test has really begun. I have a feeling some of these mistakes are things students don't even realize they're making. That's exactly right. Most of them aren't obvious. Students often leave the test thinking, my English wasn't good enough, when the real problem was something completely different.
What's the biggest mistake you see?
Trying to sound impressive instead of sounding natural.
That's interesting. Can you explain that?
Of course. Imagine an examiner asks, can you tell me your full name?
Simple question.
Very simple. But some students suddenly switch into what I call exam mode.
I already know where this is going.
They reply with something like, my respected and honorable name is Muhammad Ali, and I am currently residing in the magnificent city of Lahore.
That sounds like they're applying for a royal position.
Exactly. Nobody talks like that in real life. So students think complicated English means higher marks? Yes, and that's a dangerous belief. IELTS examiners want natural communication. Clear English is much more effective than English that sounds memorized.
That reminds me of a friend who memorized an introduction from the internet.
Let me guess. It sounded perfect during practice?
Perfect. But during the test, he forgot one sentence and then forgot everything else.
That's our second major mistake. Memorization.
I think a lot of students do this because it feels safe.
It does feel safe, but the problem is that memorized answers are fragile. If one small part disappears from your memory, the whole answer can collapse.
While natural answers are easier to adapt.
Exactly. If I ask you where you're from, you don't need a script. You simply tell me.
That's true.
Think about it. You already know your hometown, your job, your studies, your hobbies. The information is already in your head.
The challenge is expressing it comfortably.
Right. And comfort comes from practice, not memorization.
What's another mistake?
Giving extremely short answers.
Like one-word answers?
Exactly. Imagine the examiner asks, do you work or study?
And the student says, study.
Then silence.
That would feel awkward.
It does. A stronger answer could be, I'm currently a university student. I'm studying computer science, and I'm really enjoying it because I love technology.
That's still simple English.
Very simple, but it gives the examiner more language to evaluate.
I think many students are afraid of speaking longer because they're afraid of making mistakes.
That's a common fear. But here's something surprising. Students often lose more opportunities by speaking too little than by making a small grammar mistake.
That's encouraging to hear.
Another mistake is focusing too much on perfection.
I know this feeling.
Let's say a student says, I live in Islamabad since 5 years.
The grammar isn't perfect.
No, but instead of continuing, they stop and panic.
Then they start apologizing.
Exactly. Sorry.
I've heard that happen during mock tests.
Small mistakes are normal. Even confident speakers make them occasionally. The key is to keep communicating.
So fluency is about moving forward.
Precisely. Think of a conversation like riding a bicycle. If you stop every few seconds to check your balance, you're more likely to fall.
That's a great example.
And here's another hidden mistake: comparing yourself to other candidates.
Oh, that's a big one.
Students hear someone speaking with a strong accent or advanced vocabulary and immediately think, I'm not good enough.
Meanwhile, they ignore their own strengths.
Exactly. IELTS is not a competition against other students. It's an evaluation of your ability to communicate.
So confidence comes from focusing on your own progress.
That's right. The examiner doesn't expect perfection. They expect communication.
I think that idea alone can reduce a lot of stress.
It certainly can. And now that we've uncovered the mistakes that hold students back, it's time for something more practical.
Because knowing what not to do is useful, but students also need a clear plan.
Exactly. In the next part, we'll break down a simple step-by-step strategy you can use to introduce yourself confidently, naturally, and without sounding rehearsed, even if speaking English still makes you nervous. So, we've talked about the mistakes that make introductions harder than they need to be. Now let's focus on something much more useful. A simple strategy that can help you introduce yourself confidently, even if you're feeling nervous.
I think that's the part everyone is waiting for.
Probably. Because most students don't need more theory, they need something practical they can actually use.
Exactly. Something they can remember when they're sitting in front of the examiner.
Let's start with step 1. Slow down.
That sounds almost too simple.
It does, but it's incredibly important. Many students walk into the speaking test and immediately start speaking too fast.
Because they're nervous.
Right. Their heart is racing, their mind is racing, and their words start racing too.
I've noticed that when people are nervous, they sometimes answer before they've even finished listening to the question.
That's very common. Imagine the examiner asks, do you work or study?
Okay,
A nervous student might instantly reply, yes, I study university computer science and...
Without taking a second to think.
Exactly. But a confident candidate takes a brief moment, smiles, and answers naturally.
so slowing down actually creates confidence.
It does. It gives your brain time to work.
What's step 2?
Answer the question first, then add a little extra information.
I like that because it's easy to remember.
Let's use a real example. Suppose the examiner asks, what do you do?
A lot of students would just say, I'm a student.
And stop there.
Exactly.
Instead, answer and expand. I'm a student at a local university. I'm studying business management, and I'm currently in my second year.
That sounds much more natural.
And notice something important.
What's that?
The English isn't difficult.
You're right.
There are no fancy words, no complicated grammar.
Just clear communication.
Exactly what IELTS wants.
So students don't need to impress the examiner.
They need to connect with the examiner.
That's a big difference.
Now let's move to step 3. Talk about real things.
What do you mean by that?
Some students try to create perfect answers instead of honest answers.
Oh, I've seen that happen.
For example, a student who spends every weekend watching films suddenly says, my favorite hobby is reading historical literature.
Even though they haven't opened a history book in years.
Exactly.
Why do students do that?
Because they think sophisticated hobbies sound better.
But then it's harder to speak about them.
That's the problem. If I ask you 3 follow-up questions about a hobby you don't actually enjoy, you're going to struggle. While if I genuinely enjoy football, cooking, photography, or traveling, I can talk about it naturally. Exactly. Real experiences create real language.
That's such a useful tip.
Here's step 4. Prepare topics, not scripts.
That sounds important.
Very important. Don't memorize entire introductions.
Instead,
Answer and expand. I'm a student at a local university. I'm studying business management, and I'm currently in my second year.
that sounds much more natural.
And notice something important.
What's that?
The English isn't difficult.
You're right.
There are no fancy words, no complicated grammar.
Just clear communication.
Exactly what IELTS wants.
So students don't need to impress the examiner.
They need to connect with the examiner.
That's a big difference.
Now let's move to step 3. Talk about real things.
What do you mean by that?
Some students try to create perfect answers instead of honest answers.
Oh, I've seen that happen.
For example, a student who spends every weekend watching films suddenly says, "My favorite hobby is reading historical literature."
Even though they haven't opened a history book in years.
Exactly.
Why do students do that?
Because they think sophisticated hobbies sound better.
But then it's harder to speak about them.
That's the problem. If I ask you 3 follow-up questions about a hobby you don't actually enjoy, you're going to struggle.
While if I genuinely enjoy football, cooking, photography, or traveling, I can talk about it naturally.
Exactly. Real experiences create real language.
That's such a useful tip.
Here's step 4. Prepare topics, not scripts.
That sounds important.
Very important. Don't memorize entire introductions.
Instead,
Prepare key information about yourself.
Such as?
Your hometown, your studies, your work, your hobbies, your daily routine, your future goals.
so you're preparing ideas rather than sentences?
Exactly. Think of it like cooking.
Interesting comparison.
If you know the ingredients, you can create different meals.
But if you only memorize one recipe, you're stuck if something changes.
That's exactly how speaking works.
I wish more students understood that.
Me too.
Is there one final step?
Yes, and it might be the most important one.
Now I'm curious.
Practice speaking out loud.
Not just thinking in English?
No, thinking helps, but speaking is a physical skill.
Like learning to ride a bicycle.
Exactly. You can't learn cycling by reading about bicycles.
And you can't become comfortable speaking by only studying grammar.
Right. Even 5 minutes of speaking practice each day can make a huge difference.
What kind of practice would you recommend?
Simple things. Introduce yourself, talk about your day, describe your room, explain your favorite food.
Everyday topics.
Exactly. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is comfort.
The more you speak, the more normal speaking feels.
That's the secret many confident speakers discover.
Confidence doesn't arrive first.
Confidence grows from action.
I really like that.
So let's quickly review. Slow down, answer and expand. Talk about real experiences. Prepare topics instead of scripts. And practice speaking out loud regularly.
That's a practical plan anyone can follow.
Absolutely. But now comes the interesting part.
We're going to see what this strategy looks like in a real IELTS situation, aren't we?
Exactly. In the next part, we'll walk through actual IELTS introduction questions, compare weak and strong answers, and show how small changes can instantly make you sound more confident and natural. So far, we've talked about the mistakes students make and a simple strategy for introducing themselves naturally. Now, let's put everything into practice.
I think this is the part where listeners can really see the difference between a weak answer and a strong answer.
Exactly. And here's something important. A strong answer doesn't mean a perfect answer.
That's a great point.
It simply means an answer that sounds natural, comfortable, and easy to understand.
Let's start with a common IELTS question.
All right, imagine the examiner asks, "Can you tell me your full name, please?"
Simple enough.
Here's a nervous answer. "My name is Ali."
That's not wrong.
Not at all, but the candidate sounds tense and uncomfortable.
Like they're trying to get through the question as quickly as possible.
Exactly. A more confident answer could be, sure, my full name is Ollie Khan, but most people just call me Ollie.
That sounds much more relaxed.
And notice that it's only a few extra words.
Nothing complicated.
That's the secret. Natural English often sounds simple.
Let's try another question.
The examiner asks, where are you from?
A question every student gets.
Here's an answer many students give. I'm from Karachi.
Again, correct, but very short.
Right. Now listen to this. I'm from Karachi, which is the largest city in Pakistan. It's a busy place, but I enjoy living there because there's always something happening.
That feels more like a real conversation.
Exactly. You've answered the question and added a personal detail.
Which gives the examiner more language to evaluate.
And it makes the conversation flow naturally.
You know what I've noticed?
What?
Students often think longer answers require advanced vocabulary.
That's one of the biggest myths.
Because every example you've given uses simple words.
Absolutely. IELTS rewards communication, not showing off.
Let's try a question about studies.
Good idea. The examiner asks, what are you studying?
Here's a typical nervous answer. Business.
Then silence.
Exactly.
A stronger answer could be, I'm studying business management at university. I chose it because I'm interested in how companies grow and solve problems.
That sounds genuine.
Because it is. The best answers often come from real experiences.
What if someone works instead of studies?
Then they can talk about their job in the same way. For example, I work as a customer service representative. I enjoy meeting different people every day, and the job has helped me improve my communication skills.
That's something the examiner can easily understand.
Exactly.
I think many students worry about saying the perfect thing.
They do, but the examiner isn't looking for a perfect life story.
They're looking at your English.
Right. Let's look at another common question. What do you like doing in your free time?
That's where some students panic.
Especially if they think their hobbies aren't interesting enough.
I've heard people say, my hobby is reading historical books, even though they never read them.
Exactly. Then the examiner asks a follow-up question and everything falls apart.
Because the answer wasn't real.
Exactly. Right. Here's a much better response. In my free time, I usually watch football matches, spend time with friends, and sometimes watch documentaries online.
Honest and easy to talk about.
That's what you want.
Can we do a quick comparison?
Sure.
Which answer sounds better?
Let's hear them.
I like reading.
Okay.
Or, I enjoy reading novels, especially mystery stories. I usually read before going to bed because it helps me relax.
Definitely the second one.
Because it gives a reason and a little detail.
Exactly. That's how conversations work in real life.
You know what I like about these examples?
What's that?
They sound like things normal people would actually say.
That's because IELTS speaking is a conversation, not a speech competition.
I think many learners forget that.
They do. They imagine the examiner wants complicated language, when in reality, the examiner wants clear communication.
So confidence comes from being comfortable, not from trying to sound impressive.
Exactly.
And honestly, hearing these examples makes the test feel less scary.
That's the goal. Once students realize they don't need perfect English, they often become much more relaxed.
And relaxed speakers usually perform better.
Very true. But even when students know what to say, many still struggle with fear and self-doubt.
That's something almost every IELTS learner experiences at some point.
Exactly. So in the next part, let's talk about confidence, mindset, and how to stay calm when the speaking test begins. We've talked about techniques, examples, and strategies, but I think we should discuss something that doesn't get enough attention.
Let me guess. Confidence?
Exactly. Because sometimes students know what to say, but fear gets in the way.
I think every IELTS candidate can relate to that.
Absolutely. And here's something interesting. Many students believe confidence comes first and speaking comes second.
But it's usually the other way around.
Exactly. Confidence grows because you speak. It doesn't magically arrive before you start.
That reminds me of learning to ride a bicycle as a child.
Go on.
Nobody says, "I'll ride the bicycle once I feel completely confident."
That's true.
You get on the bicycle feeling nervous, maybe a little shaky, and confidence comes later.
That's a perfect comparison. IELTS speaking works in a very similar way.
Yet many students wait for the day when they suddenly feel fearless.
And that day rarely comes.
Exactly.
I remember speaking with a student who was preparing for IELTS. Her English was actually quite good.
Really?
Very good. She understood podcasts, read articles in English, and could hold conversations.
So what was the problem?
She kept saying, "I'm not ready."
Even though she clearly was.
Exactly. She was measuring herself against perfection instead of progress.
That's something a lot of learners do.
They focus on what they can't do yet and completely ignore what they can already do.
Which creates unnecessary pressure.
Right. Imagine someone who can speak English for 5 minutes, but keeps thinking about the one word they forgot.
They're focusing on the wrong thing.
Exactly. The achievement is that they successfully communicated for 5 minutes.
That's actually a big achievement.
It is, but our brains often notice mistakes more quickly than progress.
That's true even outside language learning.
Very true.
I think another problem is that students compare themselves to people who seem fluent.
Yes, and social media has made that even more common.
You see someone speaking perfect English online and think, why can't I speak like that?
But what you don't see is their journey.
Or the years of practice behind those few minutes of video.
Exactly. You're comparing your current chapter to someone else's chapter 20.
That's never going to feel fair.
And honestly, the examiner isn't comparing you to a native speaker.
That's an important reminder.
The examiner wants to see how effectively you communicate. They're not expecting perfection.
So what should students do when they feel nervous at the beginning of the test?
I recommend something very simple.
What's that?
Stop trying to impress the examiner.
I like that advice.
Think of it as a conversation rather than a performance.
That changes the feeling completely.
Imagine you're meeting someone new at a coffee shop.
Much less intimidating than imagining an examiner with a score sheet.
Exactly. If someone asks where you're from, you're not delivering a speech.
You're simply answering a question.
Right. And that mindset helps you sound more natural.
I've noticed that confident speakers don't rush.
That's true.
They take a moment to think.
And students are often surprised to learn that a brief pause is completely normal.
Many learners panic if there's even 1 second of silence.
Exactly. They think, "Oh no, I paused. Everything is ruined."
When in reality, people pause all the time.
Native speakers do it constantly.
That's reassuring.
Another thing I'd tell students is to be kind to themselves.
That's something we don't hear enough.
If you make a small mistake, don't treat it like a disaster.
Just keep going.
Exactly. One grammar mistake does not decide your entire band score.
And one imperfect answer doesn't ruin the test.
Not at all.
I think many listeners need to hear that today.
Definitely. The goal isn't to sound perfect. The goal is to communicate clearly and confidently.
And confidence often comes from accepting that mistakes are part of learning.
That's one of the most valuable lessons any language learner can learn.
So if you're listening right now and feeling nervous about IELTS speaking, remember this.
You don't need perfect English to introduce yourself successfully.
You don't need a perfect accent.
You don't need perfect grammar in every sentence.
You just need to communicate your ideas clearly.
and trust the English you've already worked so hard to build.
That's a powerful message.
It really is. And now that we've talked about confidence and mindset, it's time to bring everything together.
In the final part, we'll review the key lessons from today's episode and create a simple action plan that listeners can start using immediately before their next IELTS speaking practice session.
We've covered a lot today. And honestly, I think this topic is more important than many students realize.
I agree. At the beginning, introducing yourself sounds like the easiest part of the IELTS speaking test.
But now we can see that it's often where confidence begins.
Or where confidence disappears if you're not prepared.
Exactly. So before we finish, let's quickly go through the biggest lessons from today's episode.
Let's do it.
First, remember that most students don't struggle because they lack English.
They struggle because they become nervous.
Right. They start worrying about grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, band scores, and mistakes all at the same time.
Which makes speaking feel much harder than it actually is.
Second, don't try to sound like a textbook.
That's a good one.
The examiner wants natural communication. Simple English spoken confidently is far more effective than complicated English spoken nervously.
I think many listeners will feel relieved hearing that.
I hope so. Third, avoid memorizing long introductions.
Prepare ideas, not scripts.
Exactly. Know what you want to say about your hometown, studies, work, hobbies, and future plans.
Then express those ideas naturally.
Fourth, don't be afraid to add a little detail to your answers.
Not too little and not too much.
Right. If the examiner asks where you're from, don't stop after 3 words. Give them something to work with. Exactly.
And the final lesson?
Trust yourself.
That's probably the hardest one.
Sometimes, yes, but it's also the most important. Many students already know more English than they think they do.
They just don't always believe it.
That's true. Confidence isn't about speaking perfectly. It's about continuing, even when you're not perfect.
That's such a powerful idea.
Now, let's talk about what listeners can do after finishing this episode.
A simple action plan.
Exactly. Here's a challenge for everyone listening.
I like challenges.
Today, take out your phone and record yourself answering 3 questions.
Simple questions?
Very simple. Question 1, what's your name?
Easy.
Question 2, where are you from?
Also easy?
Question 3, what do you do or what are you studying?
That's a great starting point.
Don't worry about mistakes. Just speak naturally for 30 to 60 seconds on each question.
Then listen to the recording.
Exactly. You'll probably notice that you sound better than you expected.
Most people are their own toughest critics.
That's very true.
And if you practice a little every day, those introductions will start feeling natural.
Absolutely. Small daily practice is far more effective than one long practice session every few weeks.
Consistency beats intensity.
Every time.
Before we finish, let's hear from our listeners.
Definitely. We have a question for you. What is the most difficult part of IELTS speaking for you right now?
Is it introducing yourself?
Is it finding vocabulary quickly?
Is it speaking fluently?
Or is it simply controlling your nerves?
Let us know in the comments below.
We genuinely enjoy reading your experiences.
And your question might inspire a future episode on English Chat Studio.
Also, if today's conversation helped you feel a little more confident, don't forget to like this video. Subscribe to English Chat Studio for more IELTS and English learning podcasts.
And share this episode with a friend who is preparing for IELTS.
Now, before we go, here's a little preview of our next episode.
This is a topic many students struggle with.
In our next episode, we'll talk about how to extend your answers naturally in IELTS speaking.
Because one of the biggest reasons students lose marks is giving answers that are too short.
We'll show you how to keep speaking confidently without sounding repetitive or running out of ideas.
so make sure you don't miss it.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
Keep practicing, keep believing in yourself, and remember that progress happens one conversation at a time.
Take care, stay confident, and we'll see you in the next episode of English Chat Studio.